Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a deeply troubling development that could affect millions of Americans, particularly older citizens who have spent decades contributing to a system they were promised would support them in retirement. There's growing momentum in Washington and beyond around a policy shift that could effectively exclude nearly one-third of our nation's seniors from receiving Social Security benefits. This isn't a scare tactic. This is based on actual legislative language, proposed reforms, and public statements made by lawmakers and think tanks, and if it gains traction, the consequences will be life-changing for many. So if you or someone you care about is 62 or older, or planning to retire in the next decade, this is a story you absolutely cannot afford to ignore. At the heart of the controversy is a proposal that would drastically narrow the criteria for Social Security eligibility. Advocates of the plan argue that it's necessary to preserve the financial integrity of the Social Security Trust Fund, which is projected to face depletion within the next 10 years if no adjustments are made. But their solution? Disqualify large groups of people based on factors like income history, life expectancy predictions, regional cost of living differences, and, most controversially, so-called economic productivity assessments. Essentially, they want to reclassify what it means to deserve Social Security. One particularly alarming piece of this agenda is the idea that individuals who have other sources of income, such as pensions, rental earnings, or retirement accounts, should no longer be eligible for full Social Security benefits. The rationale is that these individuals are double-dipping, benefiting from both personal savings and taxpayer-funded retirement income. But this notion directly contradicts the core promise of Social Security, that it is an earned benefit, not a handout. It's money that workers have contributed from every paycheck, for decades. To now suggest that having additional resources disqualifies you from accessing what you paid into is, quite frankly, an outrage. In tandem with these efforts, there is also mounting support for implementing a so-called means test, which would require retirees to prove that they fall below a certain income threshold in order to continue receiving benefits. This idea, while wrapped in language about efficiency and targeted support, would upend the very foundation of Social Security. It's meant to be a universal program, not a welfare initiative subject to bureaucratic discretion or political whim. Turning it into a means-tested benefit could fundamentally shift public perception and open the door for even deeper cuts down the road. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Some of the more aggressive proposals go even further, suggesting that seniors who live beyond a certain age, say, 85 or 90, should see their benefits reduced or phased out entirely. The argument? That longer life expectancies are putting unsustainable pressure on the system. This dystopian reasoning essentially punishes people for living longer, ignoring the fact that many of those extra years are spent grappling with medical challenges, mobility issues, and rising living expenses. Stripping seniors of their financial safety net precisely when they need it most is not only cruel, it's dangerous. Equally disturbing is the idea of adjusting eligibility based on geographic location. Under this plan, people living in regions with a lower cost of living might receive smaller monthly payments than those in more expensive areas. Supporters claim this would ensure fairer distribution, but critics argue it would create a two-tiered system where seniors in rural or lower-income states are effectively told that their lives cost less and are therefore worth less. Not only is this insulting, but it also ignores the reality that healthcare, transportation, and housing costs are rising across the board, not just in big cities. So where is all of this coming from? The proposals stem from a combination of budgetary concerns and ideological pressure from certain corners of Congress and economic policy circles. A number of fiscal conservatives have long argued that Social Security is bloated and outdated, a relic of a different economic era. They believe the system should be modernized, streamlined, and in some cases, partially privatized. But behind that language lies a deeper motive: reducing federal spending by shifting the burden of retirement planning from the government to individuals. While that might sound reasonable to some, the practical result is millions of seniors left vulnerable to market fluctuations, fraud, and poverty. Think tanks aligned with these views have published extensive reports arguing for Social Security reform, and their findings are now being echoed by influential members of Congress. Some have floated the idea of raising the retirement age again, not to 68 or 70, but potentially even 72. Others want to recalibrate cost of living adjustments so that benefits increase more slowly over time, or not at all. And still others propose eliminating spousal and survivor benefits altogether. Taken together, these moves would hollow out Social Security's structure until it bears little resemblance to the program Americans know and depend on today. Now, let's take a moment to break this down. What would it look like if 1/3 of seniors were actually cut off from benefits? For starters, we'd see an immediate spike in poverty rates among the elderly. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Social Security currently keeps over 15 million seniors out of poverty. Removing that lifeline from even a fraction of them would be catastrophic. Food insecurity would rise. Healthcare access would drop. Communities across the country would feel the ripple effects as seniors are forced to move in with family, sell off assets, or go without basic necessities. Beyond the numbers, there's a moral dimension to all of this that cannot be overlooked. Social Security was created during the Great Depression for a reason, to ensure that aging Americans would not be left destitute after a lifetime of work. It's not a luxury or a bonus, it's a cornerstone of our social contract. To begin dismantling that promise for budgetary convenience or ideological experiments is not just short-sighted. It's a betrayal. And what's most infuriating about this conversation is the lack of transparency. Most Americans have no idea that these discussions are happening behind closed doors. They hear vague references to entitlement reform or budget adjustments and don't realize that what's really at stake is their ability to retire with dignity. There has been little effort to explain these plans in plain language or solicit public feedback. Instead, complex proposals are buried in budget drafts and quietly floated in committee hearings, with the hope that no one will notice until it's too late. So where do we go from here? First and foremost, people need to be aware, and they need to speak up. Seniors are a powerful voting bloc, but only if they know their rights are under threat. Families, caregivers, and advocates should be contacting their representatives, demanding clear answers about where they stand on these proposed cuts. Petitions, public forums, and town halls should be filled with voices pushing back against efforts to gut the Social Security system. It's also crucial to support organizations fighting to preserve and strengthen Social Security. Groups like the AARP, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, and local advocacy coalitions are on the front lines, but they need resources and visibility to keep up the fight. And finally, we must educate younger generations about what's happening. Many Gen Zers and millennials wrongly assume that Social Security won't be there for them anyway. But that mindset plays right into the hands of those who want to dismantle the system entirely. Social Security isn't just for today's retirees, it's for every working American who's paying into the system and expects it to be there when they need it. Let's be clear, this issue is not about politics. It's about promises. It's about whether a nation that prides itself on fairness and opportunity will continue to uphold those values when it matters most. It's about respecting the hard work of truck drivers, teachers, nurses, factory workers, small business owners, all of whom paid into this system with the understanding that they'd be supported when they could no longer work. To now suggest that 1/3 of them are no longer entitled to that support is not only wrong, it's shameful. We are at a crossroads. If we allow these proposals to move forward without resistance, we will look back on this moment as the beginning of the end for one of America's most vital institutions. But if we raise our voices, stay informed, and refuse to let quiet reforms erase decades of progress, then there's still hope. Hope for a stronger, fairer, more compassionate Social Security system, one that lives up to the promise it made to every worker in this country. Thank you for sticking with me through this incredibly important update. I know it was a lot to take in, but this is the kind of issue that affects real lives in real ways. If you found this information helpful or eye-opening, please take a moment to share this video, like it, and subscribe to the channel. Every share helps push this message further into the public conversation, where it belongs. Leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts, experiences, and what you think we need to do next to protect Social Security. Until next time, stay alert, stay active, and as always, take care of one another.